So, I've spoken a fair bit about Twin Flames Universe here on my channel, and today I want to do something a little bit different and look at a video which was put out by someone who is still a member of the Twin Flames Universe cult. And I find these videos very interesting. I find it extremely interesting to listen to the words coming out of the mouths of people who are still loyal to these cults. And I think it can shed a lot of light on the brainwashing, the mind control, and how people get sucked in and stay in these cults. And so I find it very interesting and valuable to look at the cult from the perspective of people who are still in, despite all the, you know, terrible publicity and allegations that have come to light about this cult. And so this particular person is called Christina. Let's pull up the video here. Her name is Christina, and she has a channel here on YouTube called Twin Flames Danny and Christina. And I just want to say, before I even get into this video, before we even go any further, please, please, please do not go and harass any of these people. Don't go and harass Christina. Don't leave negative comments under her videos telling her she's in a cult, all this kind of thing. Not only is that sort of thing not helpful and not effective. She's if she is this deeply in, she's not going to listen to people on the outside. Um, but it also is it's just not kind or compassionate to do something like that. And I also want to make it clear my commentary here is not in any way intended to mock or belittle this person. I am just trying to analyze and uncover the teachings of this cult in order to understand how people get drawn in, because I think that is very useful for us to talk about. Because a lot of the times people get drawn into these high control groups almost without even realizing what's happening. They see content on the internet, perhaps a video of Jeff and Shalia on YouTube, and it piques their interest. And, they watch more and more and they decide, oh, well, what's the harm in just buying this course? And before you know it, they're getting certified as an ascension coach. And before you know it, they're coaching people, in these teachings. I can see how it happens. I very nearly went down that route myself once upon a time with the whole feminine energy dating advice, and even with this twin flames um, nonsense is what I'm going to call it, because that's what I think it is now. There was a time in my life where I was very fascinated by this concept of twin flames. I consumed a fair bit of content about it. I had met someone who I seemed to have a very strange and powerful connection with. And I was looking for a way to explain that relationship. And I stumbled upon the whole world of twin flames, and it seemed very intriguing to me. It's got a very sort of magical feel to it. It's very intoxicating, this idea that there's this one perfect partner for you. And so, all this to say, I suppose, I understand how this happens. I understand why people are drawn in and why they find this so alluring. But I also think it's very important to talk about the inconsistencies and the problems with these teachings, and how it can be used as a tool to exploit people and pull them into these high control groups where people like Jeff and Shalia can take advantage of them. So let's go ahead and watch this video. It's called Learn This Lesson and the Twin Flame Third Party Falls Away. Now, I just want to explain the title of this a little bit if you're wondering what she means when she talks about the twin flame third party. So, in the twin flames spiritual community, they believe that these two people who are twin flames are sort of meant to be together. But sometimes someone who a person believes is their twin flame is already in a relationship with someone else. And this is what they call the third party. And the whole philosophy around this is that if you can heal certain spiritual blocks, you can cause this third party, this other person that your twin flame is in a relationship with, to, disappear out of the picture. You want them gone, basically. It's all extremely toxic and problematic on its face, but we're just going to roll with it for the moment and see if we can get inside how these people think and just try and bring a bit of logic to it. I think it's so important to bring this kind of thing into the light because, again, as I say, this is the cheese that's used to trap the mouse. If someone is in love with someone that they believe is their twin flame, but that person is already with someone else, you can understand why it would be extremely intoxicating if someone comes along with an ideology that says, yes, you and this person are meant to be together, and I can teach you how to make this partner that they have, this relationship that they're in, I can teach you how to make that go away. So let's get into it.
Hey Twin Flames, welcome back to the channel. My name's Christina and today I wanted to go further into healing the third party relationship dynamic in Twin Flames. So I wanted to share with you like the main core block that manifests a third party relationship. And when
So she's used a few terms here that I just want to highlight. First, she talks about healing the third party relationship or healing the block that causes the third party relationship. So they view this third party relationship, this person that your supposed twin flame is with, they view that as a problem. They view it as an issue that needs to somehow be healed and overcome. It can't just be um, a relationship that has the right to exist. The other thing she talks about is how this person who you believe is your twin flame manifests a third party relationship. Again, it's all framed as something which is existing in the spiritual realm that's not supposed to be there. They've got some sort of an issue that they have, which is causing them to be with someone else who's not you. And you can help them to heal this issue so that you and this person can be together. And so I want to highlight this because one of the allegations, the serious allegations that came out about Twin Flames Universe, is this concept that they encourage people to pursue their twin flame pretty much at any cost, regardless of if that person is in a relationship with someone else. We know that people who are part of this cult have had restraining orders taken out against them, and that people in the cult have tried to break up relationships who, when their so-called twin flame is with another person. And this is where it comes from. When the group denies that they encourage people to do that, we have their teachings that directly contradict that. They're encouraged to think of any person that their twin flame is with as being some sort of an obstacle that they need to remove.
you heal this core block, it results in your twin flame healing because they're one with you and ultimately the relationship falling away and dissolving. And so, what is that core block? It is seeking love outside of yourself. You can also think about it as codependency, depending on that person or another thing to give us a sense of feeling good. And
So that's not what codependency is. I just want to clarify that because codependency is a term that's often misunderstood. Codependency happens when one person, the codependent, enables the poor behavior of another person. So you might have someone who has an addiction, for example, or abusive behavior, or some sort of a problematic, dysfunctional behavior, and the partner enables that problematic behavior by placing that person's needs and feelings above their own. And so the two people are codependent on each other, with this problematic behavior or addiction being like the third point in the triangle of their relationship. So it's a little bit different, from what she's describing here, but I just wanted to point that out because codependency is one of those terms that's quite misunderstood. There's healthy dependency that we have on people that we're in relationships with in our lives. Human beings are highly, highly social creatures, and we need relationships with other people. We literally will die without relationships with other human beings. And so there's a healthy interdependency um, that is good and natural. And you see how groups like this will co-opt terms like codependency in order to make people feel guilty about, you know, healthy love and attachment. I'm not saying that twin flame relationships are healthy love and attachment. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, just notice how language gets, distorted and I suppose, it gets, yeah, it gets co-opted in order to try and legitimize these weird beliefs.
And it is this core block that manifests a third party. And you can think about it like this. So like you and your twin flame, you are one. This is you and your twin flame. And I feel like I've done this exact example in a different video, but we'll go with it. This is you and your twin flame. And so you are meant to go to spirit for your love. And so when you're both going to spirit for your love, you're like this. And so when you're not going to spirit for
I just want to point this out again because it relates to what I was saying a moment ago, the concept of going to spirit for your love. Now, I know that a lot of religious beliefs um, essentially talk about, God or spirit or source, some beliefs call it, or the universe, whatever you believe your higher power is, and that you're supposed to get all your needs met from this higher power. And so they almost shame you for having needs that you want to get met inside of a human relationship. And whilst I respect people's right to their spiritual beliefs, I do take a bit of an issue from a psychological point of view with shaming people for wanting to have love inside of a human relationship. I think human relationships, if if you're going to keep a relationship in your life, it should be one that's caring and supportive and respectful and loving. And groups like this, again, cults like Twin Flames Universe, and we saw this in the documentary, will shame people for wanting their partner to treat them in a loving way, or even wanting other members of the group to treat them in a loving way, like you're deficient in some way for wanting love from another person. And you're supposed, it means that you're spiritually weak somehow. You're supposed to be going to this higher power. And although there is nothing wrong necessarily with seeking some sort of fulfillment from a higher power, I don't like it when it's used as a way, as I say, to shame people for wanting other people to treat them in a loving way. If this person that you believe is your twin flame is not being loving towards you, there's nothing wrong with you for noticing that and being hurt by it. It is hurtful to not be treated in a loving way. And you should take action to protect yourself from anyone who is not being caring and respectful towards you. It doesn't mean that you are weak or, you know, that you have more spiritual work to do and that you're not going to your higher power enough just simply because you're noticing that this other person is not being loving towards you.
your love, pretend this is you and this is your twin flame. Let's say um, you try to go to your twin flame to feel good. Well, that would manifest as you going like this because you're not
Do you see how do you see how problematic this is? How toxic this is? Like you're not supposed to feel good in your twin flame relationship. And this is the kind of language that we see a lot in the twin flames sort of spiritual community. The twin flames relationships are supposed to be a struggle. They're full of these hardships and challenges, and that you're framed as this like it's framed as like this hero's journey. It's all these obstacles that you need to overcome that it feels terrible. Obviously, of course, it's going to feel terrible if this person that you have feelings for is in a relationship with someone else and you're pining after them. That's not going to feel good. But these sorts of communities will tell you that you just need to persevere and push through and keep doing the spiritual work, um, because there's something kind of wrong inside you, that you're not feeling good and that you just need to keep kind of pushing through. It's so toxic.
not going to spirit. You're going away from spirit, trying to go to your twin flame to feel good. So you go over here, and your twin flame is your mirror. So then they do the same thing, and they go further. And now you have twin flame separation. You go to spirit, you love yourself, okay? Come back over here. Oh, and your twin flame makes the same choice. And then you're one.
So not only are you framed as being responsible for the fact that you're feeling miserable, you're not being spiritual enough and going to your higher power for love. Not only that, but you're also causing this person who you see as your twin flame to drift away from you and to be in a relationship with someone else. That's framed as being your fault. Now, she's not saying it like that for obvious reasons, because that sounds really harsh and awful, but that's the underlying message, that you are responsible for this. It's because you're needy and dependent, codependent, um, and essentially spiritually weak, which she's saying without saying it. And that's why you're not in a relationship with your twin flame. That's why you and your twin flame are drifting apart. That's why they're with someone else. That's that's it in a nutshell.
One and you're together again. You've healed twin flame separation. I did not plan this. Okay, I'm sorry for this weird example, but we're going with it. So, anytime that you seek love outside of yourself in any way, like maybe you seek validation from your twin flame or friends and family, or you depend and rely on certain people for your support, like maybe you are not able to support yourself, and like in a
Do you see this? It's this unhealthy self sufficiency that's encouraged in cults, where you are made to feel some kind of shame or made to feel weak, spiritually weak, for relying on other people for support or resources. Family and friends, she even mentioned that, other people. Now, as I've already mentioned, human beings are intensely social creatures. We literally would die without the support of other people. And spiritual communities like this will prey on people's need to individuate and to have autonomy, and make them feel bad and guilty and shameful if they go to other people for support. And so we have this is how this isolation happens. I've noticed this in a lot of cults. Nexium does the well, Nexium used to do a similar thing. If you look at the teachings, it'll encourage this unhealthy independence, where you're made to feel bad if you need help, if you need love and support and resources from other people. You're made to feel like you should be able to do it all on your own with the help of this spirit or whatever, your higher it should only be you and your higher power, and that's it. And you should be able to meet all your own needs, and if you can't, that's why you're pushing away love. It makes me so sad. It's so sad, because I remember a time when I bought into this very unhealthy way of thinking, and I know But there are so many people who are in these sorts of communities and who are consuming this sort of content and advice, who are being down on themselves and making themselves, feeling bad and being made to feel wrong and weak and guilty for needing other people, needing help, needing resources and support from other people, because of these sorts of teachings. And it just and the worse they feel about themselves, the more weak they feel, and they become more and more isolated. It's so sad when there is absolutely nothing wrong. Please hear me. There is absolutely nothing wrong with reaching out for help and support. We should be helping and supporting each other as much as we can. Like, yes, there is a certain level of self-sufficiency that we do need to have, because other people can't meet 100% of our needs, of course, and we do need to be able to make our own choices and decisions. And there is unhealthy dependency, of course there is, but you can only reach a healthy level of independence and autonomy when you have this solid base of love and support. When you know that there's this safety net of people that you can rely on. And the more isolated a person is, the more vulnerable they are to poor mental health and to being sucked further in to high control groups like this.
An unhealthy way. Um, Maybe you try to receive your validation and approval from other people from like the opposite sex. Um, and yeah, it's just like it's really just like the main thing is like seeking like a lot of validation and like feeling good about yourself outside of yourself. And
Again, this whole concept of feeling good, seeking validation and approval from other people is something that's distorted in these um, high control communities, these cult-like organizations. These, this sort of teaching will distort the concept of seeking approval and validation. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be approved of and thought well of by other people. It's a very normal, natural human tendency to want other people to approve of you. Especially if you didn't get that perhaps growing up. If you weren't properly validated by your parents when you were a child, it's very normal that that would be a bit of a void that's inside you. And again, high control groups will prey on those sorts of people who are looking to fill that void. And how we fill the void of having healthy self-worth and self-esteem is not just one thing. It's not necessarily something you can 100% give to yourself. It's something that you build through healthy relationships and healthy achievements and healthy autonomy. It's a combination of feeling like other people love and approve of you, and also that you can do certain things for yourself and meet your own needs. But you can't get to a place of healthy self-worth and self-esteem by shaming yourself for having those needs. And again, hopefully I'm not beating a dead horse, but groups like this will shame people for having those needs. They will shame people for having very normal, natural need for other people to think well of them. They'll say, well, that's just you being spiritually weak. You're going outside of yourself for love and validation. You should be getting everything entirely from within yourself and from your spiritual source. And that's just not true. That's not possible for a human being it's not possible for human beings to do that. We need other people to an extent.
so by healing this block, your twin flame no longer seeks that love outside of themselves, because that's what they're really doing. They're just mirroring part of you, like an aspect of you where you're going outside of yourself for love instead of going to spirit and to yourself. And so If you haven't watched any of my other videos before, you may not know how to receive that love from spirit. And so I will have a video linked in the description box below, but the main tool that all twin flames have used to heal third party relationships in their union is the mirror exercise.
So the mirror exercise is this highly controversial method that Twin Flames Universe teaches. And it's based on the idea that people who are twin flames are mirrors of each other. They're essentially like the same spirit in two different bodies. So anything that is wrong with one person is also going to be wrong with the other. And if you can heal yourself, then through that, you can also heal the other person and bring the two of you closer together. And honestly, I could probably do an entire video talking about the mirror exercise and the problems with it and why it's nonsense. But just shortened version, you can't control other people. That's just like the bottom line. And trying to control other people or believing in something which gives you the illusion that you can control other people is highly problematic and will distort your thinking very quickly. And that's the main problem I have with the mirror exercise. It frames everything as being your fault and your responsibility, but also it frames problems and issues that you're having in your life as being within your power to control and to fix. And that's just not how the world works. There is so much that is outside of our control in this world. And part of being a healthy, well rounded adult is understanding the difference between what is in our control and what is outside of our control, what we should seek to control and what we shouldn't seek to control. And when it comes to other people, other people's choices and behaviors, that falls firmly within the realm of things we should not seek to control. Um, Within relationships, we really can only control ourselves and we can invite a person to connect with us. And we can communicate and try to have a healthy collaboration with that other person. But we cannot control the things that they choose and the things that they do and how they think and feel and what they choose to do with their lives. It's just so toxic and problematic. The whole principle underlying the mirror exercise.
And the mirror exercise shows you how to give yourself that love. And I have some other videos where I actually do like a walkthrough of a mirror exercise. So I will have that linked down below too. But yeah, so when you heal this block and you go to spirit for your love, you are aligning with yourself, and your twin flame is going to mirror that healing back to you. And
There's nothing wrong essentially with a spiritual practice that makes you feel more self-love. It can be a wonderful thing if you find that helpful. Um, Again, as I say, the problem comes in where you are led to believe that doing that spiritual practice is going to have some kind of an impact on another person, where it's going to cause them to love you more and to choose to be with you. That's where the problem comes in. If you want to follow a spiritual practice, that talks about being more connected with the higher power and finding more self-love within yourself, that can all be really great. And I think many of us could benefit from that because part of self-love, it does come from inner reflection and, you know, being with yourself. And I suppose there is something spiritual about that. But that should be for you. That should be something that you do to benefit yourself. And if it has a knock on effect on your relationships because other people find you more pleasant and grounded and, you know, more you're a better person to be around, then great. But again, it's this belief that by doing that, that 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 will definitely have an effect on this other person who you think is your twin flame. It's the controlling nature of it that I have an issue with. And also, just to go a little bit further with that, it's also this idea that people are not doing it just for themselves, just so that they can feel better. They're also there it's the intention behind it is not good. It should be a spiritual practice to benefit yourself if you find that valuable, if you like that sort of thing. And it should be entirely for your own benefit. But people are doing it not as an act of self-love, but as a way to try and get this person to love them and to, want to be with them. And to me, that's more codependent than any of the other things that she mentioned earlier in this video. She's talking about not being codependent, but the idea of doing a spiritual practice to get someone to love you and to get someone to want to be with you, I think is probably a very codependent thing to do.
Yeah, you won't have that problem. And so you are worthy, you are good enough. Don't believe that your twin flame is not choosing you because they don't want to be with you. That's not what's happening at all. It's just
Do you see? I mean, the Twin Flames universe will go ahead and deny that they teach people to pursue their twin flames at all costs. They'll go ahead, they'll deny that they teach people to try and break up relationships. And yet here you see that they tell people, oh, just because they're with this other person doesn't mean that they're not choosing you, doesn't mean that they don't want to be with you. So you're encouraged to believe in this delusion. You're encouraged to delude yourself and to keep going down the rabbit hole of self-delusion, even though the reality of the situation, the facts, are completely contradicting that. You're encouraged not to look at reality.
this block because your relationship is a spiritual relationship. It's for the purpose of like ascending and growing. And so they're gonna mirror things like this to you. So I hope that this video gives you some insight on like how to move forward and what to do. Feel free to leave comments down below if you have any questions. And as always, I have additional resources in the description box down below. And so yeah, thanks for watching and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
So my final thoughts about this, I might look a little bit more at other content that this person has put out. I might do future videos about this because I think it's really interesting to dive a little bit more deeply into what they are teaching in Twin Flames universe, why people can get drawn in, why it's very appealing and alluring and intoxicating to people, how it preys on people's vulnerabilities, how it distorts people's view of reality. And I think here you have a very clear indication of how it encourages people to ignore reality, such as if this person you believe is your twin flame is in a relationship with someone else. You're encouraged to see that as a spiritual block that can just be overcome by you doing the mirror exercise. And the mirror exercise and, this whole concept of going to your spiritual source for love is not framed as something that you're doing just as a way to feel more fulfilled and loving within yourself. It's framed as a way to get this person to come to you and to, to bring them closer to you, to kind of kickstart the process of being in a relationship. And these spiritual teachings are all like this. It's all leading you down a path of delusion into thinking that these spiritual practices will somehow bring you into a relationship with this person. Very harmful, very much preying on people who are lonely, people who are, stuck in some kind of unrequited love situation. And I just feel absolutely heartbroken. Um, I feel heartbroken about it because, as I say, there was a time in my life when I would have been very vulnerable and susceptible to these sorts of teachings. And I know that there are a lot of people out there who are vulnerable as well. And it makes me very sad to think that the likes of Jeff and Shalia are using this point of vulnerability. It's actually multiple points of vulnerability, as a way to get people to pay for courses, pay for coaching, to hand over their autonomy. And hopefully I've explained how these sorts of teachings actually erode the autonomy of that person and create dependence. So, as I say, I might do more videos like this in the future. Let me know what you guys think. I always welcome discussion about these sorts of concepts. Even if you disagree with me, if you see things a little bit differently, I still want to hear from you. I, I welcome all points of view here. And yeah, let's shine a light on these ideas. Let's bring them into the light. Let's analyze them. Let's be critical, and hopefully help people to avoid being sucked in by these kinds of teachings that are not based on healthy psychology, not based on reality. They're just a way to kind of entrap vulnerable people. So until next time, take care of yourselves. Bye, everyone.